Hello YouTubers. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about a new .NET library that I just released, which basically is aiming towards helping C# .NET developers, especially ASP.NET, engineers, to basically take control over their build pipelines, controlling the steps and what tasks that need to be, included in this pipeline, all in C#. So the problem that we have today is that you have to learn some form or another of YAML, to be able to actually properly source control a pipeline. So for instance, let me show you here real quick. If I go into one of my open source projects here, so let's go to an open source project here. I want to be able to source control the pipeline, right? So the only option that I have today is to write my code in YAML and basically see, if any changes are expected. I want to use a new version of .NET, the SDK. I want to do an extra test step, maybe acceptance test or integration test. I have to go look around and figure out, what are the options that I have here. Like this is a raw file. Like even if you open this in Visual Studio today, you have so many options, before you start wondering like, what can I do here? What are the options? Like if I want to switch from Ubuntu to Windows, for instance, how do I know what the next option is? Let me show you what this looks like in ADO, and let me show you what this looks like in Visual Studio. You still don't have this capability to be able to go and say, okay, here's my pipelines, right? And I'm gonna run this pipeline in here. I'm just gonna try to edit it. Just edit the pipeline, right? So I'm just gonna go in here. Is my pilot. I need to log in. There you go. Takes a second there. Oh my God. Okay, there we go. All right. OtripleS, I want to look at my pipelines, and this is the pipeline that we're working with here. Okay. So if you go directly to this pipeline, this is what you have, right? I don't know, like if I go up in here and say, um, I want to use Windows, for instance, does this work? Obviously, this option is not really an option, right? The correct answer is to go and say Windows 2019 or something like that, right? Well, you don't have this capability because the IDE or the environment itself is not supportive of that because it's all raw text, right? I mean, there's helpful things around here on the right side, like you can go here and say, well, this is my tasks, I want to add another task. I could go up in here and it's trying its very best to do something with with the capabilities. Like I can go and say add in here and it'll do that for you. But it's still super foreign to a .NET developer. So someone who's trying to just get off the ground, think about this for a full stack engineer. They're not supposed to go and learn 50 different languages or 50 different technologies so they can actually implement a pipeline that's source controlled. So any changes that happen in the pipeline, they can source control it, monitor it. If we're upgrading the .NET version, we need to know about it. We need that kind of capability. In Visual Studio, the same thing happens. So I'm going to open up Visual Studio, even the latest and greatest Visual Studio in here. I'm just going to go ahead and open this one here. And I'm going to try to open up OtripleS. There's OtripleS here. And I'm going to try to open the YAML file, and I'm going to show you the same experience. The same experience is really, really bad. It's not something that you want the engineers that are working on a project to deal with, right? I guess we have to switch to folder view in here. Let's see if I can switch this into folder view. Yeah, there you go. Folder view. I don't even have it like, where's my YAML file? There it is. So if I double click on this guy, first of all, you have to switch like you saw. I have to switch over. And again, if I go up in here and say, okay, what are the options? I have to go and so there's no control. So it's really a tough, kind of a tough sale, to go and deal with these things. You know, um, uh, it shouldn't be, things don't have to be painful, especially for the engineers. The clear state of mind of the engineer comes with the ease of use, and the ease of use, kind of fosters innovation. So this is not a good experience, okay? Using YAML, it's like its own programming language. I don't want to use YAML. I think having to learn an entirely new language, which I think YAML qualifies at some point in time to become not just a scripting language, but something beyond that. I don't want to use that, right? So here's what I've done. I was playing around and I went and built a little library in here that I called ADO.NET, right? ADO.NET. I mushed the names together, so it's A.NET. So it's ADO.NET, A.NET. And what this library does for you, is that it takes in, if you understand the build steps that you need to do, all you have to think about is what you need to do with your application, and it's intuitively helping you out, building whatever you want to build. So let me show you this in real life example. So this is a source code of the actual library, and I'll walk you through that for a second. Let me increase the font here real quick because I want you to see the folder structure. I want you to see everything. I want you to learn everything I know. Let's see if I can succeed in this little mission here. So okay, so here's this guy. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And here's what we can do. I'm going to delete everything I have in here just to walk you through the entire process, right? So Control MO, I'm going to put all of this under test, right? What I'm going to do is that I'm going to take everything out, and I'm going to show you how simple and easy it is. You can just, put together your build pipeline steps without having to learn a new language. So here we go. Let's do A.NET client. Here's new A.NET client like this. So this is the client that you deal with. You don't have to pass anything. It already knows what to do. So this is all good. And then from this guy, right, I'm going to go ahead and start, something called serialize to a file. So what's needed in here? I need an ADO pipeline option, and I need a path. And the path is basically what's going to help you put that data back into a YAML file, right? This YAML file is basically what your, source controller is going to use to actually run the project and all that kind of stuff. So far, so good. I'm going to go up in here. I'm going to wait on this guy a little bit. I'm going to go up in here and say, build pipeline. Okay, and I'm going to go up in here and say, okay, here's my build pipeline. I want to do a build library, and so it's going to be a dot build pipeline like this. Here we go. Let's see. Models, and then pipelines, and then I want to build an ASP.NET pipeline. That's right. So that's the pipeline I want to build. Okay. So every pipeline, is packaged into its own little, container here. So I want to build an ASP.NET pipeline. There could be many, many other pipelines that you can implement for your system, but I'm going to go with ASP.NET pipeline. Okay. Look at this. Intuitively, if I do control space like this, it will start asking me to add things in here. So out of the box, I have the control to know what I need to implement in my functionality off the bat, right? Now, there's a little bit of knowledge that you need to have here about what pipeline. Let me just ask you the question, like when you first start, you want to build something, right? You want to define which branch in your code that will be triggering this pipeline. So any pull requests opened up against that particular branch, immediately it will trigger the build pipeline. So let's start with this, triggering branches. Look how easy this is, triggering branches. And this is basically a list of strings, and I just want to know, I want to say master. So the master branch, any PRs opened up against that master branch will basically trigger, the build. Okay, there's this one piece. Okay, what else do I need? I'm going to go again and say control space. And in here it says there's task, virtual machines pool, and configuration variables. right? It looks like there's three other things that I need to build in addition to triggering the triggering branch. Let's start with the virtual machine pool. So this one is interesting, right? Because this one here is saying, you need to let's define here virtual. You need to select which environment you want me to start this build on, right? What's the best agent? You need an agent. You need kind of a library or a container that basically runs, your code so it can build, right? It depends on your architecture and all that. Look at this. If I do control space again, it basically is helping me select which pipeline. This guy here, if I say virtual machine images dot, look at this autocomplete. There's Ubuntu latest, there is Windows 2019. Let's say you don't like any of them and you have something else in mind, like VS 2019 to Windows 2019, like this. It's up to you to do that, right? But you also have this outside of the box, and that's the power of this library, is that you don't have to remember anything. So I'm going to go with Ubuntu latest. You can add as many as you want in here. The library is open source, it's extensible. You can literally do whatever you choose without any issues in here. Okay. Give me a second here. There we go. Just a moment. All right. There you go. Okay. So this is the virtual machine that I'm working with here. Okay, perfect. Now let's go back to what we were saying. So this is a virtual machine. What else do I need? I need another thing in here. It says configuration variables. I don't even know what these are, but I know I'm required to fulfill that little piece in here. So I'm going to go up in here and say, okay, this is a configuration variable. Here's configuration variables. Okay, so there's a bunch of configuration variables that I need to fill in. And then if I do control space, it says, what is your build configuration? It's asking about whether I want to run this build in debug or release mode. Right? Okay, I want to build this in release mode because I want to deploy this stuff. Right? Okay, it's in release mode. Okay, this one is done. What else? It needs tasks. And this task is the fun part about all of this, right? You need a bunch of tasks. One task will do the restore the packages, and another task will say, I want to do the build. I want to do the build, and another task will say, I want to run the tests, and then another task will say publish. So these are the tasks that I need to do really to run this entire thing. Let's try it out. So this new, and this is build tasks. Check this out. So okay, I have a bunch of tasks in here that need to happen in here. And each one of those is responsible for something. Let me comment this guy here real quick. Let me just go back to this. So this is your task. Say this is your ADO pipeline. You're building the build pipeline right here. And then I'm going to go and start with some tasks, right? What's the first task I need to do? In here, there's a couple of options that I implemented here, right? There's a CLI task that you can hit, right? A CLI task that you can run that would basically execute command lines, specifically targeting ASP.NET Core, and there's also other commands that will help you sum things up, right? Let's see what we have here, right? So we have here use.NET Task. Okay, this use.NET Task is very specific and special for those who like to work on the bleeding edge kind of technology, right? You don't even have to know about this task if you're happy with the out-of-the-box, .NET versions that come, out of the box, right? So you're using whatever ADO is offering outside of the box. You don't even have to know about this one. But for me and the people that I like, to hang out with and all that, we like to stay on the cutting edge, kind of bleeding edge part of technology. So if there's .NET 6 and it's not really finally out yet, we like to be part of the group of people that would run .NET 6 and gather some insights and then share that with the .NET team and share that with the world, right? So I'm going to use a special version of .NET Task. See, I can name my task a particular name, so I'm just going to say whatever, using .NET 6, right? Maybe I want to call it preview. Right, you can name it whatever you want. Here's another click. Okay, what is this? What is this task piece? So in here, I can name my task whatever I want. Ideally, most of these, like the task piece of this, is already named specifically for you, so you don't have to change anything there. So I'm not going to use this task one. It's already named for me. I don't have to change anything. But let's work with the inputs. So this is Use.NET Task inputs. This is where it gets a little interesting, just a little, not too much interesting. You know, so Use.NET Task inputs. So here's a new variable, and it wants few things from me, right? It wants the version. This is where it gets interesting. This version here is something that changes on daily basis. So if you go into .NET 6 like this and you go and look up the versions, they change all the time. Do you see that little version in here? That's basically what this is looking for. And whether you're using that YAML or not, you need that version in there. Okay, someone might come in and say, no, I'm going to make this outside of the box so people can use it. Absolutely, it's an open source library. By all means, go ahead and use it. What else do I want to do in here? It says include preview versions. Absolutely, I want to include preview versions in my work in here. So this is include preview versions because this is a preview version. So this is what this task is going to do for me. That's it. I'm using a .NET task. That's the equivalent of going and saying use.NET Task and here's the version. You get to source control this, but not just that. The people that are reading your code, even if they've never touched YAML in their whole life, they don't need to because they understand what you're trying to do here. Oh, you're building a pipeline. Here's your master branch. Here's your virtual machine pool. Here's your configurations, and here's that. Okay, what else do I need to do here? I need to go up in here and create another task, which is use.NET .NET CLI execution task. Right? This is a new one. And this one is where all the magic happens. This is what's going to happen with every pipeline you're ever going to use, right? I'm going to go up in here and say, okay, this display name, what do I need to do first in any pipeline? I need to restore my Nuget packages. Great. In the restore, then I need my inputs, new .NET execute task inputs, like this. Okay, and I want to do a restore. So there is a command. Look at this. This is where it gets really interesting. See, it's saying which command do you want to execute, because that display name is just a display name, right? But that enum is really what matters, right? Because it's going to translate that into what's going to run .NET restore, .NET update, .NET build, and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, so this is restore, and I'm going to go down here and say, okay, what do I need to do here? I want to restore feeds to use. To be honest with you, I know that there is an option there called select, but I really don't know what it does. I know what are the other options. I know that you just, and it could be the default option. I just put it in there for someone to come in and say, okay, this is what I have to do, and this is my thing. I think that's it. That's all I need to care about in here. Use.NET, it's restoring, it's doing a restore, it's doing feed select. That's it. The next task that I need to do, .NET execution task right here. I need to go and say, hey, I want to, now that I restored, let's go ahead and build. And like I said, the display name can be anything you want. Here's inputs, new .NET execution task inputs. Here you go. And then I'm gonna pick up this guy. Just now see how it's going with you, right? Because you're now you're understanding that it's picking up speed. You're starting to build all these tasks together. There's nothing there. I think that's all you need in the build. You don't need anything else. So I'm just going to copy this guy. I'm going to do the next one. After build, what do I need to do? I need to run my tests, right? So let's call it test. And here is test. Okay, what are the projects that I'm trying to target with my test? For the purpose of this demo, the projects that I really care about here are, I'll tell you, the projects that I really care about to run here is just the unit test for me. So I'm just gonna pick this guy. It's just the path. So that's my project that I care about. So these are the projects that I care about for my tests. Right? It's okay. So I did the restore, I did the build, I did the test. The last thing I want to do here is to go and say .NET execution task like this, and I want to publish. I want to publish. So display name here would be publish. I want to make this guy ready to be consumed. So here's inputs, and here is new execution inputs. Gotta love the Visual Studio 2020 autocomplete magic. And then in here, what's my command? My command here is going to be publish, like this. And then the last thing I want to do, publish with projects, and that would be true because this is ASP.NET project. That's it. We built the entire pipeline together in C#, right? About, give or take, about 90 lines of code. right, with the spaces and everything. That's the entire pipeline. Okay, does that really work, right? Don't just take my word for it, you know. Okay, I'm writing pretty code in front of you, but that doesn't mean that things are working. Let's go up in here and let's go ahead and put in some inputs in here. This part in here is the part where the serialization actually happens. So there's two products here that you get outside of this library. There's that model, that's out of the box model, that gives you the capability to autocomplete and build the steps and all that kind of stuff. Okay, great. But there's also the other part, which is the serialization part, because we want to take that C# code and turn it into YAML code. How is that going to work out? Here's the deal. So I need the pipeline, so that would be my build pipeline, which I just built, and then I need a path. Okay, I'm gonna make the path of this is just write pipelines.yaml. I'm gonna make the pipeline of this right in the bin folder of this project, right? And just to make things really, really sure, I'm just gonna go here and say publish XYZ, so you know that this is actually what we just did, right? And I'm just going to run my application. It's just a very simple console application that kicks off. It generates stuff for you. Oh, I'm running it into in release mode because I was just releasing the library, but that's fine. That shouldn't matter. Okay, here you go. So now this guy is supposedly done. Let's go and see what we built, what that looks like. Here's bin. Here's debug.NET 6. I should see something in here called ADO. Let's see, the console. Is it this one? I don't think so, but let's just take a look. Do I see publish XYZ here? No, but I don't. Okay, let me try this again in debug mode, like this, so we know that it's actually going. Here you go. So, okay, this one is executing. I should technically, now that, oh, I was looking in the debug area while it's in release, that's why I didn't find it. I bet if I go into the release area in here and I go into this, I will find my pipeline somewhere. There it is. Okay, let's go ahead and open that guy. The sign here to know that we're actually doing the right thing is that it should say publish XYZ. Do you see it? It's right here. That's the display name. Okay. This publish XYZ, that's all good and dandy, but does it actually work? Right? It looks like YAML. It talks like a YAML. It walks like a YAML, but is it actually a YAML? Let's go test it. I'm going to pick up this guy here. I'm going to go into my open source project, OtripleS. I'm going to literally slap that guy right in here. And that's not the practice that I'm trying to preach for here. It's something else. We should have a build project that controls that, because I don't want people to look at YAML anymore. You know, I want them to look at the actual project. I'm going to do that with you here in a second. You know, but let's just do that here real quick. So this is the trigger, commit changes. Okay, as soon as I committed my changes, now I should be able to trigger a build because I just committed changes. Do you see this little yellow dot in here? This yellow dot basically says we kicked off a build because you just merged a file into master. I have admin permission, so I can just push straight into the branch. This is a huge project, 4,103 commits. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on. There it is. So the build just started. Let's go ahead and see what that build looks like. The stuff that we did together just right now. Do you see this publish XYZ right here? Let me zoom in a little bit in here. This is publish XYZ. Do you see it? That's the build steps that we did together. So here's the use.NET 6 preview, right? And here's the restore step. It's doing the restore. Here we go. Here we go. And then there's the build. It's kicking off the build for me here. So it's doing all the steps that we defined together. You can define the entire pipeline. The beautiful thing about all of this is that it's source controlled. Like your team doesn't have to learn to. It's a great engineering experience because your team doesn't have to learn about YAML. You know, think about the guy that just joined your team. Think about the intern, the person who never used C# in their life, the person who, you know, is just limited in their experiences. And you don't want them to burn brain power and put energy into, you know, additional technology. That's just nonsense. That's just bad engineering experience. Instead, you want to kind of streamline everything for them so they can just pick up the things and run with it, pick up the task and run with it, and actually enjoy the experience. I'm an agent of that. The engineering experience, engineering the engineering experience is what I really care about. There you go. You have a full running project with absolutely no issues at all. See? Okay, so now the final step. The final step, so now you see the library, you see what it is. You can go and learn a lot more about this library in this repository. And just like I said, like I always do, if you're following my content here, you'll always find everything I try to put in there is open source as much as I can. You will find a lot of good activity around, the contributions. I try to put as much links as possible so you know where to go, and so here's a full documentation with examples, the architecture. I'll walk you through every single step, and like I said, the library is open source. Huge thanks to Mr. I hope I'm saying the name right, Antoine. I think Antoine Aubrey and his friends, this gentleman in here. He basically is the guy that started this entire foundation library called YAML.net, which is the foundation of this work. Basically, there's an open source library, another open source library called YAML.net, which plays the role of the foundation. So it's doing the conversion for me. All I'm doing is that I'm adding a validation layer on top, and I'm adding the models for you, so you don't have to go reinvent the wheel and figure out which piece you want to do. What ADotNet, ADO.net is doing for you is really giving you the models outside of the box, clean architecture. You look at the clients, the resources, everything is test driven. You have confidence in the work that you're doing on top of this amazing work that Antoine and his friends have already done. There's also, you'll see that in the brokers area, and under serializers, you'll see exactly his library lives right here. And those who are familiar with my engineering standard will understand I always abstract away code that I don't own to the edges, to the borders of my software, so I can control what's going on in there with interfaces and whatnot. Now, one last step, which is, at this point in time, it's okay, you understand all of this. The last step I want to do here is just to simply go here and just really, like someone might say, how do I incorporate that in my projects today? So that's literally what I'm going to do now. I have this OtripleS project, which is an amazing, huge project. Let me get latest because there are changes on this project on daily basis. Here's the project. Let me make sure while I'm at it that the project is in good state. So I'm just going to run all 1400 tests for this project. Actually, I think it's a little bit more. I think it's now a little bit more, but it should be at 1500 tests. Let's see here. Looks like we have some issues. Here we go. Let me refresh and rebuild. Here we go. All right, there's 3 projects all succeeded, and then I'm gonna run all my tests. I don't know why it's saying 2900. I don't really think it's 2900. But then again, also this is a very beta version of Visual Studio, so who knows, really. Okay, here you go. 13 seconds. By the way, 13 seconds, that's the UI time. If I do .NET tests, it runs a lot faster than that. And then while I'm at it, let me just kick off the acceptance tests, which are 103 now. These guys should take a little bit longer because it's actually hitting on the metal. It's actually doing the actual end-to-end testing. So these ones take a little bit of time, even though they're a lot less in the amount. They take a little bit longer because I'm actually going really end to end. I'm not mocking anything. There we go. Looks like it's going through. All right, while this guy is working, let's do this. So we gotta add a new project in here, just a very teeny tiny project in here. And this project is gonna be OtripleS.infrastructure.build. OtripleS.infrastructure.build, and it's a very simple console application, and its only responsibility is to generate that YAML file for me. That's really all I care about. We just want to make sure we're putting the YAML file in the right place. That's all. Okay, so here's my console application, and then OtripleS.web.api.infrastructure. I hope I spelled infrastructure right. Infrastructure future.build. There you go. All right, .NET 6 sounds good to me. All right, here's my guy, and then I'm gonna go up in here. I'm gonna add the ADO.NET or A.NET if you want to. A.NET should be available by now. I just published it. There it is. Here's the library. Install. The library is under MIT. Go ahead, use the code. Innovate, change the world. You know, it's built on top of contributions of really nice people. I'd feel ashamed to do anything other than doing the same thing with them and just like them. And then I'm gonna just take that code because I already wrote the code. Why would I write the code again? So let me go up in here and just take this entire piece of software that I wrote here. I'm just gonna slap that guy right here. Okay, what's needed? I think I need some references. Not too many, just quite a few. Here's all the references that I need. Let me just go get the references from here and make my life and your life a lot easier. There you go. So this is models, ADO, anything under AD.NET, also the generics while we're at it. So we can get the lists and everything. There you go. And then let's maybe put in the good-hearted engineers kind of copyright notice. So let me go back here. Here's my guy. All right, here's the build pipeline. So that's everything I need. The last thing I really want to do is just to make sure that I'm putting this file in the right place. It's actually replacing the existing file, right? So how are we going to do this? I'm just going to go up in here. I'm doing this for the first time, so we'll see how that works. I think it's like 3 levels above or something like that, right? So let's go ahead and build. And we could actually even like include this piece in the build pipeline. So if anything changes, all you have to do is just build. But I don't want to, it's kind of a chicken or an egg kind of thing. Anyway, so here's my file. I'm just going to go ahead up in here and just say, this is my old school way. I just go ahead in here and just say .NET run. Here's my project. And if you do a tab, it will find the build piece and then kick that off for us. Okay, it looks like it executed. Let's see if it actually produced anything for us. I'm going to go to the folder file explorer here. Here's my file. And this is the build. So I'm assuming it jumped like 3 steps ahead. So that's one step. This is the next step, and then another step. The file should be living somewhere here. It should be, is it this one? 12:58 a.m. I think it might be this one. Let's kick this off again and see if the date updates. Let's do this one more time. If it gives me a recent date, that should probably be it. Is that it? Refresh. Nope, that's not the file. Let me just run the project itself and see what happens. So this is right click here, set as startup project. Let's run that guy. Okay, we ran the guy. Now where is the file? Here's the folder. And build. Yeah, it put it just one step before where I want it to be. Let's just take one more, and I hope that it overrides an existing file. I don't know if it'll do that, but let's see. Okay, looks like it did. Let's go back here. If I go OtripleS all the way at the top. Oh, there's 2 of them. I probably misspelled one of them. Azure pipeline. Oh, YAML. The way I spelled YAML is incorrect. Let me delete that one and let me try. Oh, it's YAML. See, I don't even know, like, anyways. So let's go back here and run this one more time. Here we go. And this is my YAML file. I'm sorry, what option did I go with? The option that's in OtripleS is YAML. That's how little I know about YAML, and I don't want to really learn anything about it. Okay, so it's this guy here. Okay, so it's YML. That's the one we care about. Okay, so I'm going to delete this one because we don't need it, and I'm going to run this guy one more time. Okay, and this time it's not going to be with the XYZ. So let's just to ensure that we're doing the right thing. If I open this in code, it says XYZ, publish XYZ. I'm going to take this out. So I'm going to take this XYZ piece out. This was just for the testing, for you guys to understand what's happening. And then I'm going to run this guy. Of course, it's going to say, hey, you've made a change in your, there you go. Immediately it'll say, hey, we detected that you made a change, right? And here's your infrastructure project. Here's your code. Everything is good. I'm going to go ahead in here and say infra added build project and updated publish. Okay, are we ready? I'm going to push all of this upstream to master. Here we go. Here we go. And now we have the entire real life living breathing project. Here it is. OtripleS Web API infrastructure build. And it will definitely trigger a build in a second. Let's just watch it do that. Here's my build. Here is the view. It should, this time it should say publish without the XYZ. And that's how I know there it is. Let's watch it all the way to the end, and that would basically be a wrap for our session today. Here we go. Here is a restore. Let's close all of that stuff. I have so many stuff going on here. Close that stuff too. We have to make sure, even though it's this exact same code, never trust. Just because it ran once, it doesn't mean that it's going to run twice. Murphy's Law, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. You want to make sure that you're there, always there on spot. Here we go, build succeeded. Here's the test. So every single step of those I've already done what we expected to do, which is great. This is all great work. This is all, I can't wait to see, like, there's a lot of people that I work with that have never touched YAML, and I can't wait to introduce, the technology to them this way. Here's 1588 tests running successfully, publishing the tests, publish, done, and done. So I hope this was useful to you. I hope you find this somehow inspiring, in a way that would help you kind of, tackle YAML in any way, shape, or form. Like I said, all the links to the repository, to the Nuget package, to everything you're gonna find in the description. And please, if you have any questions or comments feel free to drop a comment in the comment section, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in another video.